But when we have a single platform with a single platform operator and no capacity for decentralization, no capacity for open protocols or cross-app architecture on the modern internet, it makes it so that we're left with no choice. You either accept the rule of the people who run the single platform, or you leave. So data protocols and cross-app architecture. What are data protocols, firstly, and then what does it mean to have a cross-app data flow architecture? Within the context of application development, we have different paradigms. So in one paradigm, you have an application platform at the center, and the application platform deals with all of the user data. Users then plug into that platform, they log into it, and they can access everything they need within the context of that platform. There's not really any platform interoperability, and you can't really easily access your data outside of the platform that you're actually using. The other architecture is that of email and Usenet and other systems that aren't quite so common anymore as they once were. In the email architecture, you have data protocols. So you have ways to exchange information, and then that information can be accessed and used across many different systems. That's why you have Outlook, and you also have Gmail, and Apple iCloud Mail, and other email providers. Anybody can actually start an email provider and interoperate with the rest of the ecosystem. You might have to do some build-up of your reputation in order to earn the trust necessary to get emails delivered to inboxes of Gmail and iCloud users, but you can start that process, and Proton Mail is one example of a relatively recent entrant into the email provider ecosystem. Now, data flows between these systems using data protocols, and that facilitates users' ability to move between providers if they so choose. So for example, I could download all of my emails out of my iCloud email inbox, and I could then go to another provider, and I could, if they still supported this type of thing, bulk import my emails into that other provider, go to all my friends and tell them, hey everybody, I'm not really wanting to use iCloud anymore for my email, I'm switching to a new one, and then I have all my, my friends who don't have to change their email address, they don't have to switch their email provider, but I've switched mine. I have data portability, and I've used a standard protocol, this data protocol, to facilitate access to my emails. So cross-app architecture, on the other hand, refers to the ability for users to be able to use multiple different apps to do the same thing and interact with the same systems. So this is something that happens with, for example, web browsers. There are browsers like Chrome and Firefox that exist, and there are also browsers like Safari and Opera, Internet Explorer, although that one's kind of old, Microsoft Edge, and then, back in the early days of the internet, there was a thing called Netscape Navigator, and that was one of the really old ones. People don't really use that one anymore. But the cross-app architecture of the web itself means that people can access different websites regardless of which browser they use. So it means that the platform is architected in such a way that there is interoperability. There are standards for allowing different apps, such as different web browsers, to communicate, regardless of the fact that, they might be made by different people. The browsers might have slightly different features. Maybe the bookmarks in Google Chrome work slightly differently than the ones that you might have seen in Internet Explorer. Maybe some browsers allow you to sync your browsing history or your autofill form data across devices, and they have different features, but all of them have one thing in common. They can facilitate access to the internet as a platform. So that's really what is meant by a cross-app architecture, meaning one set of apps that all kind of interoperate or plug into the same system, the same protocol, the same data protocol, right? So protocols are really just ways to facilitate an understanding between people about how a certain thing is to be done, or what are the rules and expectations, right? How is an email sent across the network from one party to another? That's a protocol. It's called SMTP, or the Simple Mail Transport Protocol. And then there are other protocols as well for things like the web. So when we talk about modern platforms now, think maybe Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, other platforms. You have to ask yourself, do they support cross-app architecture? And do they utilize data protocols in the same way that original internet-based systems like email, Usenet, which people don't really use anymore, and the web itself, that those systems use, right? I mean, do these new platforms, are they supporting cross-app architecture? Are they open to having competitors come onto their platform and interoperate, right? Would Twitter be okay if another app came along and supported the Twitter protocol so that people from both apps could talk to each other? Because email providers thought that was okay back in the day. Web browser vendors thought that it would be okay if there were different web browsers on the internet back in the day. Would Facebook be okay if there were different Facebook Messenger systems that used a protocol like email, very similar, to facilitate communication between different parties over that protocol while opening up their network of users so that those users could have choice? We have to ask ourselves these questions about the platforms we're choosing to use. Are they platforms, meaning are they monolithic, centralized data silos where you can't really move around, where you don't really have freedom if you want to change something? Or are they networks and ecosystems that are open and available for different people to compete? Are they available for people to modify and to extend in different ways? For example, if I was going to create a custom client for Twitter that would interoperate and allow people to sign up and then exchange data between my platform and Twitter itself, Twitter would need to be okay with having an understanding with different parties about how that data is to be exchanged, right? If my Twitter, someone sends out a tweet, how does that tweet get to the people on current Twitter? And if someone on current Twitter sends out a tweet or wants to follow somebody, how does the people on my Twitter get to know about this? That's the difference between a platform and an ecosystem or network, which incorporates data protocols and a cross-app architecture. Current systems are centralized because they do not facilitate access to an open protocol. They do not put users at the center. They do not enable them to access and utilize their data. They do not facilitate data protocols, data portability, data ownership, identity ownership, or a cross-app architecture. Data portability just refers to your ability to move between apps if you don't like one. In email, you have the ability to use iCloud Mail, Gmail, Outlook, whichever one you want, and still access and connect with the same network of users. You have that choice. But on Facebook, do you have that choice? On TikTok, do you have that choice? These different platforms have different incentives and different motivations and different values. People need to be aware of the values held by the people who create these platforms. Identity ownership, on the other hand, refers to your ability to maintain control over the different aspects of your identity. So things like identity attributes is certified by different people. Maybe the government says this is an ID document that puts my name, my address. Maybe Twitter says this is my Twitter handle. Maybe YouTube says this is what my YouTube channel is. But either way, these are attributes of me, and I should be able to move between platforms and maintain those same attributes. But if I want to leave youtube.com and go to another platform for my videos, I lose access to that attribute of my identity. I don't own it. By facilitating identity ownership and cross-app architectures, protocols can be developed that enable platforms to open up and break down these data silos, facilitating access to a shared and standardized set of ecosystem services that we all depend on. These networks could be embraced and extended by different parties in different ways. Sometimes they might compete with each other. Sometimes they might implement slightly different monetization strategies or content moderation strategies. You could have a popular system like YouTube where people could post videos and host them across different servers. There could be a protocol for exchanging between them. And some servers might host things that other servers might not like. But every server gets to choose its own moderation strategy. Every server gets to choose how people want to monetize that content, and then reward the people who created it. Every creator gets to choose which servers they want to put their content on. And then users, most importantly, get to choose which of the servers they want to access. If I don't agree with the moderation policy or the monetization policy of a particular server, I don't have to use that one. But it doesn't mean that I should need to leave the platform entirely. It doesn't mean that I should need to disconnect from all of the people who might have slightly different opinions than me, but who I still want to engage with. Maybe I enjoy their content. But when we have a single platform with a single platform operator, and no capacity for decentralization, no capacity for open protocols or cross-app architecture on the modern internet, it makes it so that we're left with no choice. You either accept the rule of the people who run the single platform, or you leave. And that to me is unacceptable. So that's why I've created a platform that facilitates a cross-app architecture and a set of standardized protocols that put users in the center. Give them the ability to manage their identities securely. Give them access to keys that nobody else has, which allows them to interact privately across a set of apps and services. And that's the kind of thing I'd like to see for the future. So I hope that this discussion about cross-app architecture and data protocols has been useful to you. If you're a developer and you'd like to learn more about how to create applications that work in this way, I recommend going to projectbabbage.com. Thank you very much.